So we are continuing on with the second half of Chapter 3. This is our 8th day on Chapter 3. It is the first day that we are going to determine the equation of a line. This is part 1. We're going to do this tomorrow as well. So we're going to look at different ways to write equations of a line. We'll talk about 2 different forms primarily. Do some examples. Do a little more work on Thursday over this same material. Friday, we're going to review these 2 days that we've been working on. Okay? So this is the first thing we're going to talk about. Standard form. So we have slope-intercept form. It's also called SI form on a lot of our worksheets, just shorthand, slope-intercept, SI. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That's pretty much all we did the first half of the chapter. Now we're going to talk about this form. This is called standard form. So in standard form, your x and y are on the same side of the equal sign. So x and y come first, and then it equals some constant. Important things to notice. A, B, and C are all integers. Integers meaning no decimals and no fractions. Okay? The other thing that has to be true is that the first term, your leader, has to be a positive number. You can't lead with a negative. So we're going to practice some tricks. For example, getting rid of all the fractions if there are any, or changing all the signs if the coefficient with your x term is a negative. Things like that to get it in that correct form. Any questions? All right, here is example 1. So we're going to rewrite the following equation into standard form. Standard form, you want the x, then the y, then the equal sign, then a number. So how am I going to get that x term in the front? Yeah, you're just going to add the whole thing. The reciprocal would separate the negative 1/2 from the x. That's not what I want to do. I want to move it with the x to the front. So I'm going to start by adding 1/2 x to both sides. And I'm going to write it in front of the y. That's the whole point, is I want the x in the front, then the y, then the equal sign, then a number. Once you have everything positioned correctly, you want to make sure that all your coefficients are integers. Meaning no fractions, no decimals. You also want to make sure that your leader is positive. Right now the leader is positive, but we have a fraction. How can I get rid of a 1/2? I want to multiply everything by 2. When you multiply everything by 2, you end up with just 1x, or x, and then everything else is just doubled. That is standard form of this equation. All right. Any thoughts? Yeah, we're going to subtract the 2/3 x, which you might already see that that's going to introduce a whole new problem. Because now my leader is negative and I have a fraction. Can we solve both of those issues in one swoop?
Yeah. You can multiply.
If I multiply everything by what? Negative 3. That'll take care of all my issues. It will change my leader to a positive. It will also get rid of the denominator. Okay? But if you're going to multiply this guy by negative 3, you better be multiplying everything by negative 3. 3 gets rid of the denominator. Negative gets rid of the leader, that the leading sign can't be a negative. All right, so up front now I have 2x. My y term is going to be negative 3y, and in the back it'll equal positive 3. Next thing we're going to look at is writing equations when you're just given a little bit of information about the line. So the first thing we want to do is write this equation in slope-intercept form, and then we're going to transform it to be in standard form. So this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to start with y equals mx plus b. Now, the problem is I know my m, but I don't know my b. However, I have an ordered pair that's a really good hint. So I am going to plug the 3 in for the m, the 0 in for the x, and the 4 in for the y. The only thing I'm after right here by doing this is the b. So this is like an XY hint that you're going to use to find the b. Once you find the b, you're done with this point. It's no longer important. Okay? Now this one actually works out nicely because this is the b. Did anyone recognize that? Yeah, they gave us the ordered pair that is the point that is the y-intercept. So it works out. The b's pretty simple here. Once you have your b, you're going to rewrite it with x and y back as x and y. Okay? These guys are gone. It's like you just use them for a second and discard them. Don't need them anymore. All right, so in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I have my m. I was given it. I found the b using my x and y hint. From here, I can rewrite it into standard form. How am I going to do that? Subtract the 3x from both sides. Then what? Right. You can divide everything by -1 or you can multiply everything by -1. It's the exact same thing. You're basically just changing all your signs because we can't have the leader being a negative. All right, so here are both forms of the same line. What are your questions? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm thinking like we gotta keep the y first and this time x first.
We always, in standard form, we always want the x to be first. All right. Next. Same idea. We're given the slope. We're given an xy coordinate that's on the line. We want to write it in both forms. So I'm going to start with my y equals mx plus b. What am I going to do?
Put in the 2 for y and put in -1.
Put in the 2 for y, put the -1 for the x, and 5 for the m. So basically you have everything you need except b. These are all hints to find our b. Once we find our b, we get rid of the xy, make it xy again. Get rid of that particular xy. Just use the m and the b. From there, we'll go to standard form, okay? What is 5 times -1? And then we add 5 to both sides. What is b? 7. Good. Do I care about the -1, 2 any longer? No, that's the biggest mistake I see in this is people want to keep using that. They're like holding on to it with their death grip, you know. You're just using it, finding b, get rid of it, okay? All I care about now is the slope and the y-intercept, the m and the b.
How you get like you went 2 plus 5 to both sides?
I added 5 to both sides. 2 plus 5 is 7.
Just don't do that because you ain't.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right, now what?
y equals 5x.
So now we're going to standard form, and you guys were correct. We're going to subtract 5x from both sides. Now, what's my issue? You can't lead with a negative, so you can multiply everything by -1, or you can divide everything by -1. It's the same thing. Perfect. So start with y equals mx plus b. We're going to make y 2. We're going to make x 6. We're going to make m 2/3. We're going to find b. Now this works out nicely. What happens to the 6 and the 3? Right, a 1 and a 2. Good. And then 2 times 2 gives me 4. Then what? Subtract 4 from both sides, and you end up with a b of -2. Now I have this m, I have this b, I am ready to roll. All right, what next? Subtract 2/3 x from both sides. We gotta write that in the front, which is gonna introduce us to a couple problems. No. Multiply everything by what? -3. That'll get rid of the 3 in the denominator. It'll also get rid of the leader being a negative. So up front, gone. I just have the 2x minus 3y equals +6. You are correct. 5 equals -1/2 times -2.
Oh, that's the -1?
Yep.
5 equals 1.
So, yes, 5 equals 1 plus b.
1 equals b. 4 equals b.
4 equals b. Good. So, what's my SI form?
Y equals -1/2 plus 4.
Hold on. A lot of you did it. Well, yes. You can't forget the x. A lot of people just...
Wow.
For some reason, the y is always there and the x just sort of drops off. I mean, I get it. It's right in the middle of all the action. It's easy to forget. But you need that x there or you have a totally different equation. Okay? Somebody give me a full answer. Add 1/2 x to both sides. I heard a lot of really good ideas that they're all kind of broken up. So yes, we're going to add 1/2 x to both sides. The leader is now a positive, but what's the problem? We can't have a fraction. So we're going to multiply each term by 2. You are absolutely correct. That gets rid of the fraction, leaves us with 1x, but we don't write the 1. 2 times y is just 2y. 2 times 4 is 8. All right. That's actually it for today. Remember, this lesson is over 2 days, so tomorrow we'll kind of pick up right where we stopped, okay? So
we learned the determining equation of lines.
I learned about standard form.
yes, I'm going to just go right into we learned about standard form. I think that's the most important thing we talked about today. If you want to word it a little differently, that's fine. All right, you do have a homework assignment for each night, though, so I'll give you yours for the first lesson.